trying to prove almost that, okay, like we've tried this before, we should go about it a different way, but then
They're set
it's
on their ways.
they're set on their ways,
Yeah.
so it doesn't always work, and then you kind of have to just watch it unfold, and then we're doing some planning in the background as, okay, we are expecting this to go wrong. What can we do to kind of put that fire out once it does, just because we don't have the control to mitigate it fully right from the start. So we've worked with Puzzles, which was the first bigger event company, Puzzles Entertainment.
Well, it's kind of one of those things like, hey, if I really want to do this, I gotta go head in,
Yeah.
and then just do it. And it's good that, like, I know you're able to keep yours, but I think with the direction what Carlos is telling everyone right now,
Yeah.
it makes sense for him to be like, I gotta fully commit to this.
All they need is one projector that's strong enough to actually project all the visuals, as opposed to, and we're talking one projector versus this massive video wall.
It makes
Like,
sense, and they can
you're
cut
cutting by like a tenth of the cost, probably, if not more.
Welcome back to the Back and Body Hurts podcast, where we talk about all things EDM. Thanks for tuning in this week. I'm your host for this week, Sunny. To my right is Ekern.
Hey guys.
And in this episode, we're doing a little bit more of a special behind the scenes episode of what really goes on to your favorite shows, pop-ups, and festivals. We've talked about before on episode 42. Usually the production teams are the unsung heroes of your favorite festivals. They're the one making it happen. You may show up just for the headliner, but they're hard at work early and after setting it up, and planning weeks before to make sure the show is a success. As I said, from first concept to final queue, they're the ones making it happen. We did an episode on, as I mentioned, on BNB 42 with Kian, a lighting designer, lighting production specialist, and he gave us an in-depth preview of, I guess, what goes behind those people behind the booth. They're not just standing there watching hockey.
Yeah.
They're actually doing something.
And not just eating and drinking.
And so this time we have the team here kind of does the full-on experience, hence their name, full-on experience.
Mm-hmm.
Then this goes to sound, stage design, this goes to lighting, this goes to anything you name it behind the production. So we're pleased to have joining us on the panel, Aiden and Carlos.
Thank you for having us. Super excited to kind of talk about this side of the EDM scene, which, as you said, a lot of people don't really get insights into, and there's tons and tons and tons of work happening behind the scenes, lots of fires being put out behind the scenes just to make sure that all these shows go smoothly.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes even for small shows, the scale, it just amplifies if you do a festival, if you do a mini festival, you do a pop-up show. I mean, there's just so much work that goes behind the scene that a lot of people don't see. So we're excited to get into it. But yeah, I guess just a general for everyone, what does full-on experience do?
Yeah, so it kind of started off as just a general AV production company. I guess a bit of background on us. We had come together where there's a third guy who's pretty close who's closely in the team, and then they've been helping as a bit more of a technical lead, and then he had found him during Nuit Blanche, just kind of off to the side doing some projection mapping. Him and I had been talking for a while about, okay, can we get something started where we bring sort of all of our expertise together so that we can cover the full range of production, essentially. Because right now in Toronto, I'd say there's a lot of focus in specific areas for companies. And then unless you go into the actual more corporate side of things, or like these larger companies like Solotech, there's no one really bringing everything together for event promoters in Toronto, where you'll have them actually reaching out to all these different companies, where it's one company specializes in sound, so then you're reaching out to them. There's someone else doing lighting, you're reaching out to them. So we kind of bring everything together and help to
So you guys essentially are like project managers of everything that involves around production.
Correct. And I guess in the scene it's considered a production manager in the scene. So PM.
Was it lacking? Did you guys see that it was lacking in the scene, that you had all these individual people doing like specialized in lighting, specialized in sound, but no one was bringing them together as under one umbrella?
Well, hey, by the way, that was the initial opportunity that we saw out of come together. We see this lack of single hub where you can find all these services, including the art production behind any event festival. So once we, as a serendip, we meet up, we start exchanging ideas. We came to realize that okay, there is a great opportunity ahead of us, right? So that being said, we start working some small projects, and things get into his own dynamic pretty to be fair, like quickly. Like
Mhm.
so now we are like aiming to biggest things, and yeah, that's where we're standing right now.
Nice. And yeah, we'll get more into like the specifics, even
Yeah.
your guys' first like opportunity you guys got in, just to give people a preview of like what it entails when you guys took on the job. So we'll get more into that, but we want to scale back a bit because we find everyone in the scene starts somewhere. I mean, you don't start a production company in the EDM scene or in like the general scene without liking music or liking that. So you guys are ravers first and foremost.
Myself, for sure. I've been kind of in the EDM scene since 2013. I want to say listening to electronic music a bit before that, with early days of Deadmau5 and Tiesto. Eventually started DJing around 2015, 2016, I think it was. Getting more into the dubstep scene at that point. I'd gone to a couple shows that a Toronto-based community were throwing back in the day, which really got me into that style of music, rhythm specifically, and then started working with Dead Royalty more and DJing more, and then that kind of led to here, where I've done tons and tons of festivals. Always been super excited about, oh, what if I could like throw all this stuff myself. That's kind of how it led to here, where wanting to bring essentially enhanced production, especially in Toronto, where I can feel it can sometimes be lacking. So how can we enhance the experience for everyone so that they get the similar experience to when you're abroad.
Yeah,
you
you see the
get
videos abroad, which we'll talk about more. But even in the States, you see all these crazy videos, and you're like, man, Toronto, like 30, we hear the thing 33% more laser, and you look at it, you're like, it's still kind of lacking.
Yeah. Definitely.
Or like, yeah. But as I said, there's a whole lot that people don't know about some of the restrictions or even just the tariffs in general, right?
And the
that
rate tapes.
And the costs in general that people don't know about. So it'll be interesting to hear you guys' take on that. You also DJ, right, Aiden?
I do DJ, yes.
Yeah. How's that going?
Nowadays doing a lot less of it. I guess through like he runs a Psytrance collective as well. So I've been doing more side tech DJing with them. Still on occasion I'll play with Dead Royalty and DNR. So
Nice.
Doing it when I can. Love DJing still. Do it
just kind of
tons
keeps
at
you
home.
in the scene, right? Like as a raver and also just a DJ, just connecting with people.
Yeah. It's definitely, if I had a choice, it'd be like hard bounce, like the stuff that Adrian Mills is doing, Gio, and all like the face-to-face people. That's definitely what I enjoy doing.
Event?
Yes, I had.
Yeah.
Well-produced event.
Very, very nice event. I'm glad Toronto was able to get that this year, because there was rumors last year, face-to-face 2026, and we made it happen. Shout out Takeover 6 and the team. Everyone involved, I think System, bunch of like different collectives around Electroscape. You guys did a great job.
Good one.
Carlos,
Yo.
how about you?
About me,
I heard Psytrance in there, so I'm curious to see.
Yeah, well, I've been attending Psytrance events probably since 2005. I was
Wow.
yeah, I was a kid back then. Like, I come from this Mexican background. Back there, the Psytrance scene is huge. Like, I'm talking like 2005, 6. I used to attend these festivals in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the forest, the desert, with I don't know, like 10,000 people, like that sort of, and has been a while. Different scenes, techno, drum and bass, this and that. I don't know. I could speak about raves, the band festival all day long. It's just like something that has given me, let's say, some sort of structure in my life. Because yeah, as a matter of fact, I spent a lot of time attending music events. Most of them and like focus electronic music, but also like indie rock music, like sort of things. But yeah, I could consider myself as a raver.
Yeah. I mean, if you start at 2005.
If you started to that, Psytrance.
Yeah, I would say so.
100%.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Good memories, certainly. And you can see how things had changed, right, with the pass of the years. A lot of things back then, like social media wasn't
Yeah,
anything or barely something. Nowadays, it's just like the lead of whatever. If you want to put your name out there, you need to be have to have some sort of presence, social media, this
for
and
sure.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like a lot of things. But yeah, it's like
Yeah,
good
the social
times.
media game is crazy these
Mhm.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Even for
super,
you
super
guys, it's like
important.
you guys have to at least still do something to showcase your work, and you're kind of
Yeah.
And that's where like a huge gap currently within our skill set, just because I'm not good with a camera. He also not the best with a camera. Everyone else in the team not really that great with a camera. No one remembers to even film stuff, and we're doing our best. But then we'll finish a project sometimes, and we're just wondering, oh, we have nothing really to show for it. So then we're asking the promoters like, hey, can we get access to your media? And then at least, luckily, they have that for us at least, so that
Don't
we
worry,
can
you,
get some
you guys
stuff.
aren't the only one in the boat. Even we struggle with that, and we're running a
Yeah.
podcast
Yeah.
too. And I said, for anyone out there, man, it's every step you take with social media just helps you grow and you get better and better, right? So you
Mhm.
just, unfortunately, you just have to dive into it and see where it ends up, and you can always change it. That's the nice thing about social media.
Yeah.
You can change how the structure is, which is kind of cool. So your guys' experience is pretty good. I guess this kind of makes sense why like you guys got the full encompass of like when you started the company, you already have a good general basis of the scene, which kind of helps. So then when did the idea to start this actually take place?
So I'd say around February last year. So February 2025 is when we really came together, and then we all agreed, okay, I think we have a good coverage of things. Let's make this happen, leverage all of our experience, and then just see where it goes.
And how did you guys meet initially? I forget if we
Through
mentioned that.
yeah, so I guess we had just met through after our third partner had found him at Nuit Blanche, then we had come together after that. I guess they had met a while before that, and then he had him in at the back of his mind when we were looking for someone to handle more of the visuals side. So that was the first time that we had met. We had gone to grab drinks and just like talk through kind of the vision and see if everyone's aligned on what we wanted to do. And then just through working on tons and tons of projects together now, we've gotten a lot closer since.
Nice. Yeah, I said partnerships is key. You have to also be friends in the sense too,
Yeah,
especially starting
definitely.
out, right? You have to get along with them.
Yeah.
Is this the only are you the only company that does something like this in Toronto?
Definitely not. I don't know if I could name others off the top of my head that are, I guess, small, maybe. But there's definitely bigger companies like Solotech is like to name probably the biggest one around, who's like managing a project end to end with all the AV, as well as the stage management side.
Yeah, it's obviously something people wouldn't know about in our like you don't see their name on the
You don't see
you,
the name.
you don't see their name unless you're following on social media. If they're
Yeah.
doing it or someone tags you, you don't really see. I say unsung hero, guys, unsung heroes. So you mentioned visions and goals, and I think you talked about it earlier a little bit. It's like you want to just re-elaborate that a bit more.
Yeah. Do you want to take
After like
the-
you guys talk, okay, this is our vision.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, yeah, probably there's a few more companies in the city that is kind of specialized on band management. However, the vision as full on experience has been always focused on creating experience and creating the art behind all the production, which is like, yeah, certainly there is a big companies all over the place which offer lighting, which offer sound system, this and that. But there is as how we see at the current state of the scene, there is no much offer on the matter of art production direction, and there is the opportunity of the lack of I cannot call it service because that gonna sounds very square, but certainly there is a great room for improvement out of the Toronto festivals. Where, as a personal opinion, it comes like a very short when is art deployment or like a real art proposal, and I think like for festivals, it's a the most important, at least as a my own conception of a festival, which once you go to a festival, you need to see all these art, what an actual festival means, right? Because if you're going just to, for let's say, for the music headliners, this that, it's just like, yeah, it's another event, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, right? But there's no substantial uh proposal out of a vision of what the music, what the art, what the see, what society, what all together means, and what you're pushing towards, right? So technically, yeah, the vision has been always bring all these elements, lead by the art vision slash direction, and the mission is the deployment, right?
Mhm.
So the mission, it's make it feasible. First thing, as we all know, this city, this country is crazy expensive. So that's another of the reasons why at least we consider the m- most important, or one of the most important reasons why this festival do not accomplish like these production art, or these um, deployments that should be like, we're talking that we're in Toronto, right? One of
Yeah.
the world class cities in the world, one top cities in the world. So it should be a bigger proposal at least. So yeah, one of the reasons that we consider what is not happening as it should, it's because the cost of production and operation. So certainly, when you're running a festival, um, it's like you like commonly, if you need to this specialized service, you need to go with these companies, multiple companies to make it happen. And at the end, the cost of making it happen, it goes like a skyrocket. It's just crazy expensive, and it's like it's not feasible. and and well, like the mission for us is bring all together and make it happen.
Yeah.
It's like at this point, the reputation, and the reputation is a word, that it's is so much about the um, like um like something very superficial, at least is how I feel. But like once you talk about art, it's more than just reputation, right? It's the fact that you need to like uh push boundaries, the fact that you need to bring the soul of any concept out. And at the same time, when we're talking about production, you need to make it feasible.
Mhm.
Mm.
So
And it's good that you mentioned it too, because obviously with AI, like kind of a lot of people using AI, in the end, your creative process still comes from the heart, right? And that's the main thing, that it showcases your work. Yeah, you may use some AI elements to assist, but it still showcases your work, and you're able to showcase it from the start, which is kind of
yeah,
good.
definitely, we're not against any tool for
Yeah.
sure. We're not against about AI. It's like it's
Yeah.
another tool. However, human connections has been always the lead to whatever we do. So it has been because we do art for humans.
Hmm.
So that being said, it's all about that. To get to bring the charming, to
Yeah,
bring
the
the
charm
the
personality.
charm,
Yeah.
yeah. So and make it just a showcase for people, and
Mm-hmm.
people can feel the love, I guess. is the way how I think, I see things. And for me, it's all about
No,
that.
that
Mm-hmm.
that's a good baseline for your vision, right? That will separate you apart. And if people can see that in what you guys do, then
Yeah.
the appreciation will come just based on that. Because many times, as I said, you go to an event, you don't really focus on the production as much. But when we're gonna talk about the Stefan Bodson show, because I was blown away when I walked in there. I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. And then I found out that these guys were doing it, and I was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I was impressed when I walked into that, and it was like, yeah, we'll get more details on that, but that was like, a lot of times you don't see that because it could be cookie cutter, right, for the production, where it's just simple lights, simple production. sometimes
Yeah.
budget comes in.
Which is I feel like where we're trying to shift away from, or at least enhance the experience, where right now I find a lot of the production is just staging, like trussing, scaffolding with added lights and lasers onto it.
That's
But
it.
there's,
That's
and I
legit.
guess LED screens, and there's not really actual structural elements to it that turn it into, as you said, kind of a piece of art. Because if I were to look, or for Back to Awakenings, because I find that they have actual like structural elements to their stages where it's this giant piece of art that has all the lighting and the lasers integrated into
The main
it.
stage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever
like the main stage.
design. Yeah.
So trying to bring something closer to that to Toronto, but still at an affordable rate if we can make it happen. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
solid. So we're gonna talk a bit about the growth. Obviously, now you have the vision. You guys met up. Like, okay, this is the direction we're going. Just to start off, who have you guys worked with?
So we've worked with Puzzles, which was the first bigger event company, Puzzles Entertainment.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. Real quick, if you're planning on attending any events overseas, you need to sort out your mobile data before you go. No one wants to be that person hunting for dodgy Wi-Fi just to load their ticket or find their friends at 2 a.m. Use Airalo. It's an app that lets you instantly download eSIMs for basically any country. It's super easy. Pick your destination, buy a plan, and boom, you've got data as soon as you land. It's way cheaper than roaming, and you'll be set for maps, messaging, all the fest photos, no stress. Best part? You can get 15% off with our code BNBHertz15. Just head to airalo.com or grab the app and enter the code at checkout.
But we had worked with them through our partners connection. They had been working together for a bit as production managers on that one. We'll get into more of the details in a bit on that one. But another big client that we landed was Friends Only, who's I'd say is they're setting the bar for us in terms of how we would like to work with.
And I would say that that
promoters.
partnership just works with your guys' vision, right?
Yeah.
Because every time you see a friends only event, once again, it's the allure of you're getting an invite through your friend. It's like a special link. You can't just buy a ticket right off of
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But then you see all their crazy designs and the crazy locations they do. We've seen the subway one. We saw the recent library hall,
Library, yeah.
which is kind of cool. And with social media game, it showcases it, right?
Yeah.
And you guys
they're
did
killing it.
the library show.
Yeah, we were production managers for that one. We've done about 4 or 5 events with them, I want to say now. First one we had gotten with them was, I guess we had been put in contact with them through our network essentially, and then had met with them. Visions were kind of aligned. They were looking to scale up their events, which means they needed a new AV provider, just because the other AV company they were working with didn't actually want to have to outsource anything
Mhm.
as part of the events, which means they had capped themselves off at a certain, I guess,
Setup.
essentially a certain setup and like how large an event can actually be.
Mhm.
If they want to just use everything in-house. So that's how we got put in contact with them. And our model right now especially is outsourcing where we don't have the expertise necessarily, or if we don't have the inventory currently, we're eventually going to build towards that. But in the interim, this is kind of the model that we do. So we can handle shows of any size, which is also to our benefit of we can handle pretty much anything that a promoter would throw at us.
Yeah. And it kind of works with them because it's like you guys can grow together, which is
Yeah.
kind of nice, right? Especially with your guys' visions. Like you guys, but as your guys' visions are directly aligned for how you guys want to operate, which is
Mhm.
kind of good, right? And then eventually, when things go, then you guys can look at other opportunities too. But it's good that you guys they're on your, like, you guys are working well with them.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's been
You're just challenging yourself and whatever problem that comes in, and there are external expertise, you just expand your team, right?
yeah, exactly. So we definitely have like a list of vendors that we work very closely with and that we'll prioritize to bring them in on projects with us, and that we enjoy working with. And then yeah, we're just waiting to see where things grow with all of these vendors as well, and just build pretty much enhance the production across Toronto together.
Nice. Is there anyone else that
Love You Forever is another one that we work closely with.
Mhm.
And then they're actually my neighbors down the hall. So that's how I got put in contact with them pretty much, which was pretty funny. But no, they've been great to work with as well. Done a bunch of events with them. Recently started working with Abajo Entertainment, and then
Certainly, we can all leave out to Lysergic Sounds.
yeah,
Lysergic Sounds is another team that we have been teaming
up
soon
with
enough.
very
Yeah.
closely on just getting their services as well as also helping with their events.
Nice. So I guess when you guys started, what were the initial road bumps you guys had? Like it's a 1 year, like for how much you guys have done 1 year, very impressive.
Thank you.
Very impressive. Because I remember I talked to, so I've known Aiden for a while too. It's funny, Aiden and me are kind of like the guys I don't message if he's going to an event, and then I'll just see him there. And I know there's a couple of you out there that I have that with, but Aiden's one of them as well. And we just run into him, and then we just end up chatting for like 30 minutes there. So we were talking about when he started this, we were initially talking about like just, because all the podcast was already running, we were initially talking about like either doing an episode or just talking about where the scene's going. And then now we're making it happen. But it's always funny. We always run into each other when we least expect it. And because we both listen to multiple genres. So it could be at a hard techno event, that it could be at Peekaboo last time?
Peekaboo, yeah. There was like
it's just
like any techno event, honestly, of any style. Could be at a like just straight hard style event.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, literally anywhere, which is always great. It's hard to find, honestly, people who enjoy all styles, I'd say, of EDM especially.
I think I've seen you at like every single like drum and bass.
Yeah.
I don't know about trance, but maybe we'll get there. Maybe we have. I don't know.
It's possible.
It's been a lot. Okay, so but in the first year, what was like what's something you guys didn't expect, like that you had to quickly learn?
Well, technically,
it's probably a lot.
It's a long list.
Yeah,
but we can talk
a long
on
road, definitely. I mean, honestly, there's always room for improvement. That has been said, and that is it's just it's a fact in life, right? When you think that you did something right, certainly you can find something that you can do better.
Yeah.
Something that still result very, very hard for me. It's that here present their business partner and friend Eden, which is a highly professional character. Myself, I've been in the goal for a while too. And in terms of production, we both have some expertise, and for sure there is always something new to learn. However, there has been it's proven the record that some things have been working out properly, and there is something that to show that okay, there is the results, right? There is something sometimes there's some things that we need to improve for sure. However, something that is still hard to me is when people with producers comes with things that we have been trying before, idea that we have been trying before, and have been proved non sufficient or not as
not as fine tuned,
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah.
and then trying to prove almost that okay, like we've tried this before, we should go about it a different way, but then
they're set on their ways.
They're set on their ways,
Yeah.
so it doesn't always work, and then you kind of have to just watch it unfold, and then we're doing some planning in the background as okay, we are expecting this to go wrong. What can we do to kind of put that fire out once it does, just because we don't have the control to mitigate it fully right from the start.
Right.
So definitely frustrating, and something that we've learned to just plan a bit more for. Definitely first time it happened, we're just frustrated, honestly, and it was okay, well, we can't do too much about it. We'll do what we can. And I guess just adding on to that, like another roadblock I think is finding the resources to help with the labor side of things is the biggest one, especially when we're working with these smaller promoters who don't have infinite budget to just put into essentially these like unionized workers, which definitely come at a higher cost. They're very efficient.
Does that mean the laborers could be you guys?
Oh,
Yeah,
all the
certainly.
time. I would say like we are the default laborers for all the shows as much as possible, especially as a startup.
Yeah,
like we don't have all the money in the world as well to put into it. And we're trying to grow a team up from scratch as well, where we would like to have an in-house team, and we're not working with all of these contractors all the time for labor, just because of there's definitely a cost consideration where we want to be offering the most affordable service to the promoters in Toronto, so that we can also, just goes back to enhancing the production. How can we cut the costs down? And this is one way where we found, okay, let's get people involved, whether it be reaching out to friends, other people in the scene who are willing to help, and just making sure that they're trained up appropriately to get the job done. But it's definitely like finding good workers, and I know I've heard this from other production companies as well, is definitely a challenge, because you don't want them to not show up one day.
It's pretty niche area too, right? Like for certain things like sound design or like even lighting, it's very niche. I would find like your options are probably not that big.
Yeah, especially on like the design artistic side, and I'd say we're definitely a bit pickier about who we're working with, if they're going to be representing the company artistically as well.
So certainly, for any enterprise, finding the right team is always the if it's not the top of the challenge, is one of the top 3 of the challenge, because this is also proof, right? Every people who run a business can tell you that. However, yes, as Eden say, it has been a sort of experience too, like finding building a team, and building a team who is not only the technical approach, because if you talk about use audio, if you talk about only about installing light fixtures, it's just very technical, right? You need a technician, but once you try to incorporate all these elements based on art direction, it results a little bit more complex or challenging. However, yeah, we've been calling friends, and somehow the team start building, coming together. And as he mentioned, it's the fact that we need to keep, or the approach out of our company, a full-on experience of keeping services affordable, or instead of using affordable, we give a top dollar value out of whatever we
and that's where the
offer.
design phase comes in, which is
Yeah.
what separates,
So-
which is a good aspect to separate you guys from others. Right?
Correct. So is that the thing? Like, it's not only building a team that has the skills, but also the motivation to, instead of going through the easy path, it's like taking the right decisions at the right moment in order to further steps further, get the most out of whatever we are building, right? It's most about add value on every step and every move that make it affordable itself. The affordability comes after we deliver some nice service for something that certainly you cannot find.
And efficiency. As you do it once, like obviously there's always hurdles that you have to go through initially, but you take the lessons learned from this event, apply it to the next, and then try to cut down time, because time is the biggest factor in all this. In fact, this all sounds very exhausting. Is this your guys' full-time job?
Yeah.
So not my full-time job. I'm a project manager, so I've been leveraging those skills, and that's my full-time, doing more IT implementations, but definitely a lot of translatable skills. And then I'd been renting out backline on the side for a while. And for those who don't know what backline is, it's essentially all of the instruments or DJ gear that's used by the artists. So within the electronic music scene, this is typically the CDJs and the mixer, as well as any mics, stuff like that.
You beat us to our question earlier.
Yeah.
We do have a section where we're just gonna break down like general terms, so we don't go too technical.
Yeah.
And that was one of them.
Before you kind of want to ask the question about your one of the initial road bumps, like how difficult was it to actually initially set your first price to your first client?
Very hard. That's actually a good one to point out, where that's been a huge learning experience. Just making sure at the end of the day that we still need to be profitable so that we can keep running the business. So definitely at the start, I think we fell into a bit of a trap as well of providing almost too affordable of a price, where we're essentially running it at close to no profit, which doesn't help us to grow as well. But also being in the mindset of you want to secure that first client also, because that's kind of the stepping stone to get out there, but not wanting to undermine, I guess, all the other production companies as well, which is something that I had experienced where getting an understanding of like undercutting everyone else isn't necessarily the best solution.
Right. So, but do you think that decision actually propelled you to secure more and more clients because the word of mouth is, oh, these people are relatively affordable?
Yes and no. I think we've definitely found a sweet spot. So I definitely think we didn't start out right, even if we were priced a lot better than other companies. But now I think that we're in a good spot, just making sure that we're running our numbers better so that we're generating profit while still maximizing value.
And this is a good example for like everyone listening too, is that it is every company, no matter how small, it's always a tough, like how much, but you also have to realize you're building a brand.
Yeah.
And your brand will have a certain, like, I can offer this with my branding. So like, it's just hard to get to it. So anyone struggling with that, don't worry, you're not alone. I think everyone struggles with that because in the end, no one wants to do free work.
Yeah.
It comes down to that. Like everyone should be compensated for the work they do. It's just understanding this is what I'm offering, and then just realizing this is the number that makes sense for this while looking at the industry as well. You just got to do that analysis, which, and then once you get past it, as I said, doing sales stuff is always tricky with a lot of people too. So that's just learning experience, guys.
Yeah. So Aiden, you also mentioned about like you have you rent out backline equipments on the side. So I mean, kind of, we didn't really touch upon like earlier in the episode that did you start this company on the basis of like, oh, I could do that, and then it just piles up more and more, rather than you, okay, I want to build this company and then market myself?
It was more so like the backline on the side was just something that kind of happened. I'd bought CDJs just so that I could be better prepared for my sets while I was still DJing a lot more with Dead Royalty. So eventually, especially after COVID, when there was a huge surge in pricing on just AV rentals in general, I had been reached out to by, I think Dead Royalty was the first ones who had asked, hey, would you be willing to rent us your gear? And then just kind of started like that. And then through word of mouth, then other people were reaching out to me. And then just kind of escalated from there.
Were you personally delivering?
Yes, personally delivering or
personal service.
Yeah.
Word of mouth. It's like, this was a good review.
It was just lots of word of mouth through friends. So I knew pretty much everyone that I was working with at the time. And then eventually, like, I've always wanted to do something like what we're doing now, but I don't have the expertise to pull it off on my own, nor do I have the time to actually learn all the different sides. So that's where I think coming together was a huge asset for all of us.
So that eventually led to building this company.
Yeah. And Carlos, how about you? With Aiden being a project manager, still, is this more your full time?
Yes. Currently, this is my full-time job, and totally love it. How it came across all the situation. So certainly, when Aiden or business partner, Mr. Mace, we finally met. We changed some ideas, and I've been doing design. Okay, so as a little context, I've been doing design for a while. Like, it's been like more than a decade. And as early we exchanged some words. I do work with natural stone, stuff like that. But also I've been into the music industry for a while, so it has been more like my passion, my hobby, whatever you want to call it. But little by little, things has been growing through that approach. And when we met, um, it was just a like a really good moment where I was trying to step away a little bit more of my administrative uh, job approach, since I run another company, whatever. And here, my dear friend, Mr. Shimaru, he just came with this approach, and I expressed my necessity of my necessity of grow more as a art director, if I want to call it somehow.
Did this conversation happen at 6 a.m. after a rave?
No. Actually, it was pretty much business hours. Business hours.
Yeah.
So
it's just funny. It's like those heartfelt moments.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
sometimes like we've had other guys on the podcast. I think Takeover 6 started at an after parties. The idea of Takeover 6. So it's just funny to always whenever you guys meet, it's just funny the origin stories. Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
No, it was very standard, to be honest. It was a business meeting,
Yeah.
conversation, whatever, friends talk, and express my necessity. I will keep using that word of going more in that direction, and was like, okay, it was exactly the role that we kind of trying to fit into this idea of company enterprise, right? And I say, okay, if it's that the thing, okay, I'm all about it. And was my was what actually trigger all my willingness, my will to start these new on my life, my career, this totally new approach on art direction, which, as I say, I've been on design before, and somehow in production, not production as a music band production, but more as a manufacturing products or like items. So once we came with this enterprise conversation, I expressed my necessity of the of goal of myself going on through this approach of art direction. It was like a sort of a moment, because it was right there, something I technically wasn't looking at that point of my life, but I knew that it's something that I need to bring out, right? Like a something like maybe go after just digital design or whatever you want to call it, and bring more to reality, like original pieces, like more like a more
And that's why you wanted to make it like your full-time job. Like
oh,
it's like
yeah.
this is like I need to make this passion my
Yeah,
full-time.
totally,
Yeah,
totally,
That makes
totally.
sense.
And that was it. That was the way. That was the way. I didn't hesitate for a second to move on. And
It's
that's-
kind
Yeah,
of
you gotta
it's
follow
kind
your
of
passion.
well, it's kind of one of those things like, hey, if I really want to do this, I gotta go head in,
Yeah.
and then just do it. And it's good that like I know you're able to keep yours, but I think with the direction what Carlos is telling everyone right now,
Yeah.
it makes sense for him to be like, I gotta fully commit to this.
I need to mention, like, before this company, I've been running my own company, and I've been like working on my own for about, I don't even know how many years already.
Yeah.
But like for three years and a half, like running my own company, my own business, and somehow everything, this company, full on experience, and my our enterprise, like it came together very well. They just have a really good harmony.
Yeah.
If I don't want to say the perfect harmony, because nothing is that perfect, but it's like a really good harmony, and they have some sort of, they have such a balance that it's not like a one company interfere with the other, but it's sort of like manageable at the same time without like a feeling that I'm stepping in different directions. It's like somehow a little bit of the same, but the other side. So it's like this has been just like proficient enough, and it's the way how I have been.
How big's the team now?
So it's starting to get pretty big, of at least of people that we bring on board pretty regularly. There's about 8 of us, I want to say. A lot of them on the artistic side, able to bring forth some art that we can work with. And then we're going to be hiring a full-time marketing manager starting next month, so that we
Social
can
media.
actually, going back to earlier, since we're so busy with different aspects of the company, this was somewhere where we think that we'll maximize value, honestly, just to make sure that we can get what we're actually
Gotta
designing,
showcase your
putting
work,
out there,
man.
and
Gotta show-
properly showcasing it, to just help us grow.
Nice.
For sure.
So I guess we're gonna talk about the first show you guys did, but like I still find it kind of crazy that the first show was the puzzles one that you mentioned for like a legend, Stefan Bodzen, and his whole production too. Like, I'm assuming you had experience already with connections and stuff that led you to land that contract. Like, I guess what was the build up to leading to that job?
Yeah, so that's one that we knew was in the pipeline before even officially starting full on. Like,
Okay.
it was kind of in discussions with our third business partner, who was a bit more of the production manager on that one. So we had been working on that one through, that was end of March. We formed the company officially early March, and this had been in the works since, I want to say, January before that. And this was something that would have probably been managed individually otherwise, and then because we were coming together as a company, then it got thrown into being done under our own company.
And when did that show happen? Last year?
It was last end of March, I believe.
End of March.
last
So
year.
you had like about 3 months in between that.
Of initial planning. Like, I'd say the bulk of these things tend to happen, at least in our experience. I would love to do it a lot earlier, but it tends to happen in that month before.
Okay.
Just because even other companies also have so much on the go that the planning doesn't happen until you're done your previous event. At least on the
Is that
AV side
industry, like,
sometimes.
common? Like something like, let's just say I have a festival in June.
Festivals would definitely be a different story. That's definitely usually a full year planning. But I'd say
Okay,
for
okay.
individual shows, we're not even getting reached out to sometimes until a month, maybe 2 months before.
Okay, I guess that makes more sense when I think about like something like face to face. Those, like, it would have been like
Yeah.
maybe like a month or two before.
Smaller scale shows
Yeah,
definitely will. There'll be some initial talks, but I feel like a lot of the finalization of details and everything
Yeah.
happens a lot closer to the show. Like, even Friends Only, we only get under 4 weeks notice sometimes to start the planning and bring all of that together on show day.
I guess it's nice in the sense of that at least you're not stranglehold with the project for so long, even though like if it's a large scale project, whatever, like you'll run with it, but like 4 weeks, go balls to the wall insane, and then have it execute and then work on the next project.
Yeah,
It's kinda nice
and I
in
think
that
if we had a larger team, it'd be a lot more manageable. I think for us, the biggest challenge with these shorter timelines is that we're only, like, we were 3 partners at the start, so trying to getting multiple projects on the go, because that wasn't the only thing. We had some smaller stuff we were doing throughout that month as well, so trying to make sure that I'm working my full time, but then we're making sure that we're staying on top of everything as much as possible. So just comes
Did you
down to a
have
lot of time
to deny
management.
any clients
Because
because you got too busy?
I don't think we've done that yet. We'll outsource as much as we can if we are getting more clients, and then I'll at least try to have an oversight over everything. But then we'll outsource as based on the actual needs of all these different events.
That makes sense too, because it, even though you probably can take on a couple, like another client, if their needs are this, and then you can just outsource it to this, and then not that hard to manage, especially if you trust them
Yeah,
to
and like
execute.
feel like over time it'll become a lot easier where we'll know what's kind of in the pipeline based off of just their schedules. Because I know at least at the end of last year, there's like with some of them, they had provided us the tentative dates for the year, so at least we know when we're going to be starting planning, or we can start reaching out based on everyone's schedule and plan better.
Nice. So it goes back to, I think, like in general, like you guys had the opportunity, you ran with it.
Yeah.
With the first show, right? Like it's like, hey, this is a lot of people. I mean, if you didn't have that, I mean, to break through could have taken months longer.
Yeah.
Like maybe even, yeah, probably months longer, right? Because you have to get your name, you have to get the opportunity for another show, but to have that show, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty good
there's
as a first
definitely lots of luck involved in starting a business or getting opportunities, but it's one of those things you just jump at it once it comes your way.
We tell that to everyone.
Mhm.
Even if you're artist, sometimes you just gotta get lucky.
Yeah.
As what I think Fetish says when we had him on the podcast, you just gotta sometimes just sheer luck. You just gotta fucking grab it and just go.
Yeah.
Nice. So we're just gonna break down some general questions about, because we've talked about lighting in B&B episode 42, but I guess this is like the full aspect. So one thing we always hear is backline, which you mentioned, right? Is there anything more you want to add to what backline means?
No, I think that pretty much, like, within this scene, it's essentially like your CDJs, your mixers, whether it be Zone or Pioneer or the RMX that you see people having over top the mixer sometimes that'll add additional effects. And then if we're talking about bands and stuff, then just all their instruments, drum kits, guitars, all that stuff.
And then the production aspect entails, I think, what we think: lasers, lighting, and like design.
Yeah, so there'd be the term staging adding in there, which is like kind of you're trussing the actual stage decks that people are stepping onto. So those elevated platforms for the stages.
Is trussing its own thing? Like, is that a specific thing you have to outsource someone to just handle trussing? Or does one of the guys usually...
Usually if you're in staging as a whole, from what I've seen, you'll have the staging side, so those stage decks as well as the trussing, maybe scaffolding as well. Like the larger AV companies for sure would have just everything. But for actual, if you're looking for staging stuff, sometimes there are people that specialize a bit more in that. And not something that I know, like not all production companies actually want to get into that side of things because it comes with a whole different set of labor a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, the thing about the trusting is that you jump into structural composition, so components composition and
safety too.
Yes, you need to accomplish different local regulations. So that's the thing. Like sometimes it goes beyond what actually seems to be just production, and as I say, not everybody wants to jump into that field, right? There's a little bit more.
It's very niche, but yeah, once you're specialized in it, and you have the industry and at that point, which is kind of cool. So since you guys handle more of the project management aspect, if I had to break it down, does someone handle like the backline stuff for like an event?
So given that, I guess we're slowly starting to in-house as much of these different pieces as possible. So on the lighting side, like we have a small set of lighting currently available to us. That's definitely one thing that we're outsourcing a lot more just because the sheer cost of honestly getting lighting, it doesn't even make sense for us right now. So something that we'll try to outsource. Lasers as well. We'll use some like lower watt ones than we can handle in-house. But if we're looking for much more powerful ones that you would see at festivals or in these larger venues, that's another thing that we would be typically be outsourcing. And those are kind of the two core components I'd say of production right now from a visual perspective. And then there's the audio side with all the sound system and everything. So that's also something that we can handle a small event, but once you start getting into these larger events like that Bodzen one, and also wanting to bring those better sound systems like a void system, or function ones, something as well where a lot of people are just working with a specialized vendor who has invested fully into that.
And they'll handle the aspect of the night where they'll be like sound calibrating and all that stuff too, so you don't have to worry about that.
They'll have their operators and everything. And then one other side of the visual component of production that I think is where we focus a lot more on and that we're trying to bring forward in Toronto a bit more is projections and projection mapping.
Like on the stages or on
the stages or any piece really. Right now I'd say LED walls dominate when it comes to having visuals, like artist visuals, especially in the bass scene where you see a lot more of that. At Bodzen we had brought an LED wall as well, just to have some additional visuals, but there's a lot more of immersion I think that you can achieve through projection mapping. But
this is like Shambhala inspired, right?
Yes.
It's actually like, watch Shambhala videos, guys. I think the castle stage or whatever they have.
Yeah, the pagoda stage is probably the only, I don't want to say it's the only one in Canada, but it's definitely the most notorious one in Canada and something that you see a lot more in the psytrance scene, as I've come to learn. But I'll let you talk a bit more on like projection mapping.
Yeah, well, projection mapping, what we can talk about it. Projection mapping is certainly it's a very niche technique. Nowadays you can see it more often different scenes. However, has been psytrance. The psytrance scene has been nominating this approach of art. There's huge names that comes third psytrance scene that not necessarily talking about the global scene, right? Talking about the global scene, you see like these massive art installations all over the place, and sometimes you don't realize that the people behind these installations is the same people that is behind these very niche underground installations, psytrance festivals, and I don't know. I come out of straight out of that scene, and what I can uh, uh, add out of this approach, or what I feel out of this specific context, is that out of the psytrance scene, you get the most experimental version of video mapping. Video mapping, it's a very fl- flexible, or very you can adapt this technique on so many possible scenarios,
But it's
which
not as common,
Mhm.
right? Compared to LED walls.
It's definitely not as common, but I'd say it's getting more popular. And I guess just to
Okay.
take a step back for those who don't understand what video mapping and projection mapping is, it's essentially you have a structure that has all its unique aspects, for lack of a better word. Like, let's say there's all these cracks in the walls, and then you're projecting onto that, and then you're actually molding essentially the screen, what would be the screen, to those individual details so that you can actually customize almost the visuals to reflect what you would be seeing there, but then you can almost warp it so that it looks like this element that would typically not be moving is actually coming alive, and there's like line shifting. You can do some pretty cool stuff with technology nowadays.
yeah, very important. Yeah, I don't know. I just start seeing everybody knew what video mapping is stand for, but yeah, technically it's the art of bending photons, like of making custom animations, projections out of very specific angles, slash like installing projections in very specific positions in order to hit structures or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
facades, or
Any
any
plane.
yeah, like that you want to project on. And out of these projections, you technically bring to life the, the the surface where you are projecting, right? The thing about video mapping is that you are not tied to first thing rigid surfaces, slash you can actually bend your animation to get an amorphic results, which means like you can project on a sphere, let's
Mm-hmm.
say.
Mm-hmm.
You can project on a sphere, and out of this projection you can get results like that technically you couldn't get out of LED screens, let's say, right? So something that it has more power, visual power.
I think it comes back to let's be a bit more creative.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
It technically fall in that specific concept, because once you're projecting, everything's about
it's how you warp it, how you want to
exactly.
mold it,
It's
how it look
just,
cool. Okay,
yeah, it's
yeah.
Do you think it
nail
works actually better because we were comparing between LED like walls and this, right? So do you think it actually works better in a very, very dark setting?
Yeah, certainly that's the cons about
Yeah, that's a
projectors.
good point.
Like you need to have a light atmospheric light control, or light pollution control, in order to get the proper result.
Mm,
So once you get that light control, the possibilities are like
pretty much endless, yeah.
yeah, endless,
Essentially, it
exactly.
works for those rave all nights type of thing. I side
Yeah,
trance where you go
like
see
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
sunrises.
yeah. So, but however, there is new techniques, or new not techniques, but new equipment, which certainly is super expensive,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
super expensive. But you can use it during daytime. Still, like as part of the creative approach, if you want to, as we do, like mix techniques. Like you can get a lot of like a lot of the results, like really original results, out of very little elements, out of a structural composition, out of a little blinking light. Like there is creativity is the limit, or the beginning of whatever you need to make a stunning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah, because I was just thinking that if I were to see a huge LED wall in like CZ at 5 a.m., I don't know how I feel about that. It'd be way too bright, and the noise, the light pollution would be too much.
Yeah, it really depends on, I guess, the environment too and where it'll work. And like,
Yeah, and that's where I find we don't see it so much in Canada because there's not. You would have to go to a festival that runs all night. Hence why Shambhala is probably one of the few actually doing it. There's definitely a lot of the smaller, more niche ones that are doing it. And I'm seeing more and more of it and seeing it talked about a bit more, but it's definitely about I find in our like stage design, finding that balance of structural, still having the LED walls in there because they just function better during the daytime as well.
Yeah.
Same with lights themselves. You can see those plus the LED wall during the daytime, but then once the sun starts to go down, then we can incorporate all those projection mapping elements into it as well. And then it's just about controlling kind of the brightness of everything.
Nice. I guess with that, there's obviously many events out there with plug and play setup, I guess, in this industry, right? Where it's kind of like a standard, like this is the setup, normal lights, normal scaffolding. Is it pretty easy to like, I guess, have that turnaround? Like if you get a contract for like a show to do that, but they just want basic setup, what's the turnaround time for that? Is it like pretty quick?
I'm pretty sure there's quite a bit of turnkey blueprints that you can just use, right?
Yeah, like overall, I would say if it's just going to be some basic lighting, we just need a couple of bits of trussing, then it's a pretty simple setup. It's a lot more of connecting wires and just mapping things back to a design. But it's once we go into the building those structural elements, that's where we really start to need a bit more time for turnaround.
Yeah, my own personal point of view is like I have not much input out of that because it's something that I don't like to do.
Yeah, it's not the basis of your guys' company.
Yeah,
right?
it's like it's something that totally to avoid as much as possible. Which is for sure like money is good. Money is good. Get a contract.
It's like the quick buck type of thing, right? Where you just take on those jobs.
Yeah, and those ones like
it won't help elevate your brand is essentially, I guess, what it comes down to.
Yeah, we enjoy being able to add that creative or having more creative control, I should say, rather than just be full turnkey. So that's where we would much rather be working on a design, and I guess where we would consider it maybe a bit more turnkey is what we're trying to do with our clients now is if you don't have the budget to do a full scale build right away, how about we break it up across multiple shows? So then we can work on the first bit, build that out for them within a budget. Carlos would be able to develop some customized visuals for that. And then I would consider that the closest thing we have to kind of a turnkey solution where at least we have the basis for it done for the next show. And then we're enhancing it. And then the visuals, it's not like it's going to be a full rework of it. And we have a process in place as well to get everything set up. But this turnkey system would be pretty unique to that client because we wouldn't be able to use it necessarily in the same way for a different client.
It's like building blocks, essentially.
Yeah.
It's like up to this point, it's a building block. And then from there, we can just take the innovative aspect, which is good too. Saves you guys time, which is cool. Cool thing to think about. Is there any technology that's out there that you guys are excited to use? I know this might get a bit too technical, but is there anything?
Yeah, no, certainly, and I'm approaching.
We may need to cap you off on this one.
Yeah, no,
we're 3 minutes to talk about this.
We're approaching that direction. Certainly, there is a lot of new technologies that certainly cost the cost of deployment. Because there is not a lot of people specialized in town of these technologies, but it's Unreal Engine plus incorporating Unreal Engine and Touch Designer, both together, it's like endless possibilities. And if I'm gonna stop talking about what you can do,
mostly software, right?
Yeah, no, Unreal Engine is like a sort of thing already. It's like start being a video game engine for to design video games, and nowadays it's just like industry standard for. Like endless possibilities.
I'm pretty sure Anima's visuals is done by Unreal Engine.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Is there like we have conferences and everything. Is there like a conference for like this industry that you can?
So
Yeah, haven't happened here in Toronto. Well, there is this event, which if I'm not wrong, it burns in Montreal, which is Mutec Festival.
Oh, okay.
It's this
How do you
the
spell Mutech?
MUTE,
TEX.
Mm.
K.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
K.
TEK. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mutec.
Did you know that nearly 25% of adults experience hearing damage from loud noise exposure, like the music at clubs or festivals? Once it's gone, it's gone. That ringing you hear after a night out? It's a sign that your ears are crying for help. Hears provides earplugs that reduce noise levels by up to 21 decibels, enough to protect your hearing while still letting you feel the bass and enjoy the show. Get up to 30% off when you group buy with 5 friends. Click the link in the description now or scan the QR code on the screen. Don't wait till it's too late. Order today so you have it for your next event.
So such a festival, man. It's a top notch,
Mhm.
getting edge festival. All the forefront of the industry is there, and it's the closest that you can get here in Toronto, which is like the top of the top.
I guess just to touch on that, I guess it really depends. Every festival can, I guess, do something like that. Like if Mutex is doing that for that, I know Shambhala has been known for world-renowned sound because PK tests all their stuff there, and that's one aspect of production design.
Mhm.
Is hey, we could test our latest speakers, subwoofers at a festival.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of answers my question. There's not really a conference where you can look at this. It's kind of like this festival is implementing this specific thing.
It's funny because actually there's festivals or events where they are specialized on all these tools, and unfortunately none of them, or maybe just Mutec, happen in town. Europe has a few of them. United States for sure, and Mexico there's also a few of them. And specifically talking about visual deployment, audiovisual, but slash a more visual approach. There's a huge industry arising out of these new technologies, because certainly they're new, and they have been there for a few years, but they are growing, like massively, like new integrations that comes out of the future. I don't know, and there's happening, and I don't know, I could drop some names, but certainly people could themselves. uh Unreal Engine is running the scene,
Mhm.
certainly,
Mhm.
and from there everything is it's coming. It's a big thing happening.
Has there been any big innovation that's happened recently? Like anything with production? No, I know we're talking about software, but has there been any like hardware or something
Uh,
that's kind of changed?
um
The lights get brighter. The lasers get more
well,
laser.
Energy efficient. I don't
Yeah,
know.
technically, projectors. In terms of projectors, these new triple chip laser projectors. Some is super expensive, super
Yeah.
expensive.
I think that's why
But,
it doesn't make it feasible. But
Mhm.
yeah, but out of that, I mean, it's like, yeah, better LED screens. No, not really breakthrough.
I
it's
find a
more
lot
as
of the
long as the
time.
cost goes down, then you'll see more and more of it. I guess get implemented.
And sound systems. This deployment. They did at the Sphere, Las Vegas.
Yeah, Las Vegas Sphere.
Yeah, with all these.
Oh, the triangulation of the sound.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
a major breakthrough.
Yeah, that was. I remember reading about that. It's like each seat is individually customized for
Yeah,
the sound,
it's
so you get like
insane.
the perfect hearing experience. And that's the big thing in festivals. And you see the festivals at like Fort York, and now they're much louder than what they used to be, because I think what's happened recently is triangulation of sound to a focal point has gotten much better, and
Yeah.
where it doesn't project after that, like once you cross the street, it's literally triangulated on that point, which is kind of, you think it's kind of cool to think about. But
Yeah, I
there's
definitely
obviously a
think
science
there's
behind
more
it.
advances being made on the audio production side.
Yeah.
I feel like with the lights, like you see things getting brighter, moving faster, being more efficient. And I think it's more the fixtures themselves are evolving, where before we had just the moving heads, and then now you have these wave like ones, like if anyone's seen the videos of Subtronics in LA, where that really made the pixel curves get showcased of these light fixtures that can create these waves if they're all synced up of light going through the room, which has definitely become a lot more popular following that and seeing those around a bit more. So I think it's just these new fixtures and ways to put lights together into a single fixture is more what I'm seeing in terms of real innovation.
There's this new volumetric display, which I cannot recall the name of lab that developed it, developing this new thing. But technically, it's a laser. It's a laser volumetric display, which
It's
has
essentially a 3D LED wall.
Yeah,
If
okay.
anyone's
but
seen,
it based in laser. Based in laser, it's no LED. It's a different approach. It's not like
Okay.
the one that we the dragon
Yeah.
dragon cube. No, it's like literally a laser laser beam like that you get stored that you can create like solid images. Still one laser beam, and so it's a major breakthrough, but it's no still it's in process of development. Once it's out there, there's like this technology that just in the sci-fi movies where like uh, volumetric displays just deploy out of nowhere, and you have like HD results, and it's the early stage of those displays, right? So
Mhm.
it's happening technically.
Nice. That's a,
Yeah.
it's something we won't realize until someone points it out anyways.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. I guess with all this, how much is like the artist or promoter in this case involved in what you guys do?
I would say definitely early on, we'll try to leverage our own creative process with them so that we can present a proposal to them. If there's a, I guess just like from an end-to-end process perspective, typically we'll do some requirement gathering and get what they're expecting from their own creative vision, and then we'll see how we can actually execute on that. But that's where we'll start pitching our own ideas, like how can we see something change that might make it look cooler. We'll have like Carlos designing some kind of proposal that we can put forward, and then we'll still need the approval at the end of the day from the client. But they're usually pretty heavily involved, I'd say, because at the end of the day, we're executing on their creative vision as
Yeah.
well. So it's a bit of back and forth.
Yeah. What you say?
Did you also account for a sudden venue change?
We haven't,
You haven't had that happen.
Yeah, no, we haven't had that happen.
yeah, we haven't really had to do that yet. Like the closest thing, I guess, would be Nowhere last year, where we were planning for one venue and then we were planning for a different venue.
Right.
Things played out differently, obviously, with the festival, but there was a lot of planning being done for one, and then seeing how we can actually adapt what we had already done to the new venue in a shorter time frame as we were trying to make that new venue work.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, honestly, like just to touch on your question, if it was like a warehouse show and something happened, I think you might just have to like cancel it at that point. It's just, I think, too much involved to move everything you had, unless you just scale it down, just do a normal club setup. I guess a story like for what happened to AM/PM during
Yeah,
New
that's
Year's,
the first
right?
one that comes
That's
to
the
mind.
first one I'm thinking of, where they had a setup, but then they couldn't. They just had to go back to their home base, and whatever happened,
whatever.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too much work, because especially a large show like that, you're talking 1 or 2 days at least of
Just setting
everyone
it
putting
up, yeah.
stuff in. So to actually just take that out and move it elsewhere is not usually possible in a day.
And I'll
Yeah.
say, listen to our full story on the puzzles episode.
Well, I mean,
we break it down completely.
for a large scale, like last year's Tomorrowland, they had a fire and everything was just done in like within 24 hours, right? Which,
But that's
I mean-
also throwing infinite money at
Yeah.
a problem.
yeah.
No, like
and
with-
an entire city and country
like
willing
with
to make
enough
it happen.
laborers, you can definitely make almost anything happen.
Yeah.
There might be some minor restrictions, but I think that's where, I mean, they did what they could
Yeah.
to salvage the stage, and I mean, I think they did a good job for given how they could actually manage that situation.
Have you guys done anything with like an artist vision? Because sometimes an artist has a specific like curated show. Have you guys done anything yet with that?
Yeah, sure thing. We sometimes have to work the artisan around.
It's similar process, I'm assuming, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
just
like
working with a direct like like a
yeah,
growing artist.
especially when you work with brands like Stephen Butsy. What's with we work with um pardon me, I forgot the name of this brand, but
It's okay.
oh
We'll
my
come to
god,
you.
yeah, on Elizabeth Theater, Queen Elizabeth Theater.
Oh, the New Year's show?
Yeah,
That was
Nears.
also puzzles. Oh, it was Chris Avantgarde.
Chris
Yeah,
Avantgarde.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
So these people just come with their own material, but still they try. It's like, as they say, when when the client hire you to as a
To execute their vision,
Yeah.
essentially, then
yeah, but
you can be at the mercy of what they would want. It's usually, and for context, he's talking more on actual operating the visual side. And you see it a lot more where they have their own branded content, which we're not going to be able to modify too much on our own. So that's where we struggle a bit more, I
yeah,
think.
Yeah.
that's a struggle certainly. So
Because they might come late into the process too, which might be another like yeah.
Yeah.
I
is,
mean,
is that, and also the fact that when you're planning some light design, let's say for the show, sometimes doesn't make sense with venue.
Yeah.
You know, something doesn't make sense with these.
And it's not a tour, so
Yeah.
it's also one off. If it's a tour, it's a little bit different because then they know they're traveling with the same setup.
I mean, like Chill released a video, right? But talking about her brand and her vision of like how she wants to design her stage, and then she was complaining that not many people get to see it, but she spent quite a bit of money, so she kind of want to like reiterate and show the footage right.
POV, you spend 13,000 Canadian dollars for starting light prop at your production. Yes, 13,000 Canadian dollars. Even if it's Canadian dollars, it's still a lot of money, okay? Guys, it's still a significant amount of money to spend on a prop at production. I posted a video about this. I posted a video of how it looks, and not that many people saw it. So I am going to post this video here again for you guys to appreciate, because I spend so much freaking money on making this concept a reality. You have to watch. You have to at least appreciate it from your screen, okay? The idea is that I was gonna build, like a F1 starting light, like a beep, 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 beep thing. So then we put the plan together. It's a truss, basically a truss with like 5 programmable lights in a row, and it would mimic like a race starting the race beep, 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 like kind of intensity, like really cool race start kind of idea. There is like a fly flying around me right now, and I'm sorry if I'm like distracted, but anyways, this thing cost me like an arm and a leg, okay? So please appreciate this video and make me feel better about spending this much of an investment on a project.
Welcome to the Need for Speed Tour.
But
But
also,
again,
I think for the Toronto stop, she's talking about the Toronto stop, it was a one-off event. It was like her brand, but it's not a tour, it's her one-off event. So she kind of threw money at it to like make it work. I guess it's similar to that. But if she goes on tour, that cost would probably be cut down because you can travel with the equipment.
Travel everything. Yeah. There's way different considerations, and it's a lot easier if you're just bringing all the gear that you need. Versus
But it was
planning with
what Yikern
locals.
said, it was very interesting because it was like $13,000 for a stop
Yeah.
go light,
stop
Yeah.
well, like yeah.
which I guess for some people, like if you were at the show, it's the light that went and
Yeah.
turned green at the end. So I guess one other question I have is how much of the night, like once everything's set up, how much of it like still you guys have to do during the night, like programming wise? Is there anything? I guess there's the audio and the lights guy, audio guys probably with a tablet doing that. But is there any on the fly things they have to do?
Technically, when I am doing my thing, like fully, during the whole night.
During the whole night,
Yeah,
it's all you.
There's not too much. There's some stuff pre-programmed. Even on the lighting side, there'll be some sequences they might have that are pre-programmed. It's called chases, where you'll have stuff pre-programmed in. especially with like the larger lighting designs. They'll have a tool set, essentially is how I would call it, of different combinations of ways to use the light that they've pre-built. But even then, they're iterating on that and honestly just recreating different variations of it live and just executing on their own creative vision. So on the lighting side, I'd say there's not, unless there's the artists themselves wanted to do something that's pre-programmed where it's time coded because they want everything to be perfectly in sync, which happens on like the larger tours a lot more. But like the Bodzen show, I'd say all that lighting was pretty much just on the fly.
Did you guys talk to him that night?
To Bodzen? No, I did not.
I actually spoke with him like a quick word, and his manager he gave me these AirPlugs. Like,
His branded earplugs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I guess there's also the setup of indoor outdoor, which I think what comes to most people's mind is if you're doing outdoor, you need to have it potentially rainproof or potentially somehow to a certain extent. If it's downpour, there's not much you can do and you can't really run, right?
Yeah. So there's AV equipment that's designed for outdoors as well. So like
Okay.
lights, that's called an IP rating. So for outdoor festivals, you'll see that if the lights, honestly, Electric Island, sometimes you'll notice that there's plastic bags around the lights, which is also just something that's done if we know it's going to rain, as an extra layer of protection. But if they're rated a certain way, they're usually pretty good for surviving whatever weather conditions might be thrown at them.
Have you guys had to do a setup for potentially like that? Or has mostly been indoors right now?
Yeah, well, technically, I find that these setup where you prevent for rain, any sort of weather conditions is pretty basic. I think that the most important out of outdoor setup is always the power grid. And this is what you actually need to take care.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because like even like you can get a waterproof light fixture. You can get everything for
But
outdoor.
the power
but
is
the power is the key for success, and a lot of people doesn't realize that till they are there. Like it's sort of thing because as easy as say the extension cord. The extension cord, like what could be wrong? It's an extension cord. Well, it could be a
Could be
situation.
the entire thing running EI. Is
Yeah.
that one extension
Yeah,
cord?
it can go south pretty fast because even we've ran into a scenario last year where we had cables that were buried, and then but there was an actual connection that was buried just because we were in a situation where we had to have the connection itself buried, and then power went out, and it's like, okay, we have to go dig that up and
Oh my God,
fix it,
such a pain.
which
Such a
becomes a
pain.
pain, and it's just all hands on deck. Let's figure this out once that happens.
It's still one of those priceless experience because honestly, out of those moments is where you find out that something grew up and you right in your experience. It's that little things that could mean a lot if you actually if you actually don't prevent out of some situation like this. But after that happens,
I guess for everyone listening, just keep an eye out when you're at one of these festivals, and just keep an eye out where things. You obviously probably won't see the power grid because they don't want people to see where that is. It's probably like barricaded behind a lot of the fencing, so they can't see it. But just take a look at the lights. Take a look at what's there. It's always interesting to see.
Yeah, you can see a lot more of it, I find, at the small festivals because
Yeah.
like that's where we had experienced that at one of the Psytrance festivals nearby, and yeah, that you can really see how everything's functioning when you see people running around a lot more, and then it's like, oh, something's happening, but I don't know what.
I guess we talked about like unsung heroes. I always repeat that, but the amount of time you have to put into like these, like the setup and the teardown. What's a general time frame for like, let's say the Can I Bring Friend event that you guys just recently did, or the Stefan Bodzen one that we'll get into? What was like the general timeline for like setup and then teardown?
So Can I Bring a Friend? Very aggressive timelines typically.
I
That's
think I
just
saw the
kind
little
of
video you guys had.
That's the almost part of the brand, I would say, as well, where it's just we have day of. It's pretty much because it's all these public locations, it closes to the public, and then you have a certain amount of time from whenever it closes, which is typically after business hours. So then you have then until 10 p.m., let's say. So usually it's a 4-hour turnaround, I would say. Like the most recent one was done in 3 hours. So that's where you have, it can get chaotic for sure, where you have all these, especially Can I Bring a Friend, you have 30, maybe 40 vendors coming in and setting up all their stations, and then just making sure everything's sequenced properly so that everyone can operate as efficiently as possible.
I think the recent library one had like trees and stuff inside too. Just crazy. There's a video, I think, summarizing it. It's actually insane the amount of time.
It's funny just to see, like, you have the people putting the turf down while we're setting up the speakers, while we're setting up the lights, and then you have them building trees in the background. Especially like the main tree, where when I'd first heard about it, I think it was an 18-foot by 18-foot tree that we're putting in. It's just like, where is this going to go? How are we building this while everything else is happening? But no, it gets done.
Yeah. And it's usually like, I guess that goes for like some more warehouse events. You probably have the day of or the day before to like pre-set up and like full final setup on that. Is there any like 24 hours, like you have to work like 18 hours to get
actually I have found that not that long ago, but I feel like from a year to the date, most venues, they are working this concept of giving to the producers this at least 24 hours time frame to build their productions in order to offer something more valuable for the attendee, right? So I also work in different venues in the city. I found that venues itself now they're realizing that by allowing the producer to build or give them this time frame for the build up of for producer shows also have a beneficial effect in their own venue, since the venue now start being like a scene, as a place where you can go and find something different, and not only this typical production with lighting, with trusting lighting and sound system, which has been the case, at least the case I have seen for already a few years, many years, that literally the venues didn't allow you to come the day before to start your production, even if they had the venue unattended, if they have the possibility to do it, but they also they want to charge you for that time, right? So I feel that things has been changing a little bit, at least, and more venues are now are working on this concept of letting the producers to do their thing, and has been getting good results, at least from our perspective, right? And yeah, that's the case lately. In other cases, like when you work in a public buildings, that the timelines are certainly aggressive. That's a different thing.
Even
right?
like spaces like we talk about EI Bunch, like with Fort York too, you're only gonna get like 24 hours.
Yeah,
to, like, to
I
do
think
it.
gets to a couple days, or like Downsview for Veld. I know they're building for at least a week before that. But
And
I
it's
find
24 hours essentially. Like someone's always testing at night.
making the most of the time. And I know like McCormack in specific, like even with the Bodson show, we had the full, I think we had the full week before that one, which isn't typical. Typically it's more 1 or 2 days to get the full setup done, and then you're just bringing in whatever needs to be done first. Like sound is usually one of the first ones to come in. They can set their stuff up with all the staging, and then once the staging's up, then you can bring the lighting in, and the lighting can connect everything to all the trussing that's now been set up, and just minimizing friction between all the different teams.
I said one thing after another. You don't want to leave one group with like rushing within like 3-4 hours to get it done.
Yeah, and just making the best use of everyone's time as well, because you don't want them to have their laborers coming in and they have to stand around waiting for all these other people to finish up their tasks. So there's definitely a good amount of sequencing involved in that. And then what we'll see sometimes as well, because it wouldn't work if you have the venue booked 2 days in a row typically, and then you have to do your teardown and then do the setup of the next event. But you'll see at McCormack sometimes. I know the Bodson show, the promoter who was using the venue the day after that Bodson show had just reused all the production, which is to the benefit of the promoters as well, just because then they can split the cost of the production, because usually a 2-day rental, you'll get a bit of a discount. And then you're also saving on labor.
I think that's where we're seeing Runnymede right now too, where the efficiency is, I think, Flo who did the lights like a permanent fixture now because it just makes sense to keep it in there. And one event can use it, and the next event can use it, and it's cut down costs for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So speaking of McCormick and your guys' first show, I want to get a little bit into like I mean it's pretty big. Like to do that as your first show, like obviously it's like execution. You're like we gotta get this right. So I guess when you guys you already knew before you started the company that you guys had this opportunity. Was there like a budget you guys had to work with on this one?
Yeah, there was a budget. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But this was one where I'd say there was a pretty confined scope. Like Asif knew who he wanted us to reach out to for lighting and get quotes from, who he wanted us to reach out to for sound and get quotes from them. So we played very much like a project management, production management role in that one. Popping in, like Carlos had done the operation of the visuals for that one on the LED wall. And then just helping with like the coordination of everything that was actually getting set up. So I ended up working with Reecho and Flo on that one.
What was the creative template you guys had for that one? Like obviously you had the opportunity, you want to put your creative vision on it. Was it something that specific you guys did for that one?
So this one, I would say we didn't have too much creative control over this one. This was more like we had said before, where we're executing on a vision, especially with like even everything down to the LED wall was in. So artists will have a tech writer usually. So even in Bodzin's tech writer, like that LED wall with those specs was something that was specifically in there that we had to bring in for his team.
Exactly, we just had project management.
Actually, I need to mention something. Yes, we have our tech writer and we have our aspect. However, something came out of the plan that night, and technically, yeah, we ended doing our thing. We ended operating. We have a preset in terms of lighting and lasers and this and that. We took over of the installation, deployment, how everything's supposed to look for the night. And I got the branding package of Botzin, and I'm supposed to stick to those visuals as operator. For sure, something came across, and we ended just being a little bit and
made some tweaks.
It happened that the producer came and say like, "Hey, yo, like it doesn't look like it's supposed to look, but keep going. Like, it looks really nice." And honestly, sometimes maybe
that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, it's not the best thing to say, right? But yeah, we went through the plan for hours, and you end up realizing like, man, we can do way more. Maybe that's what I mentioned at the beginning. It's something result really frustrating when you try to go through the client scope. The client always has reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't. Still, you stick to the
because
plan,
because it's safe for them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's safe, and they have their, especially with the larger clients, I find like they have their brand, and we understand that.
We totally understand that. And we also have found that once you, sometimes it's just that as very well known, and enterprises always say client has always had the reason, right? And sometimes client is also just looking for a lead to step out of the conventional, and this is something that not everybody is like there to say. It's like as easy as hey, you have a going on your same scope. Maybe we can step a little bit further and make the proposal, right? Like I use as a proposal, as a single, as a easy idea. And sometimes that result in something that it for the client it's outstanding, something really worth. And there is when a lot of things start happening, and we have found those results out of different events, venues, and as I have been mentioning the whole podcast is like a lot of things doesn't happen because nobody even tried to mention try to make it happen.
Okay.
It's like It's like that's as simple as that. As simple as people doesn't say, "Hey, I want to do this," and it's right there, and you can do it. But if you don't mention, if you don't put a word out, never gonna happen. But when you finally uh, make the mention, and it's like, okay, do it, and things start happening. It start the ball start rolling, and who knows where it could. Ends, right? Or what could result. And that has been something that has been going on. So, yeah, it's like, I don't know, that's the only thing that I can say at this point. Yeah, we always work on the client idea, we always work on the feeling, branding, everything, but there is something else that you can always add in order to make the brand way more worth or worth,
Add your
right?
spin to it,
Yeah,
essentially. There's
exactly.
always some minor thing, whether it could be this, like how you program visuals.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I guess so. Obviously, for you mentioned for the Stephen Bolton, you had the venue for like the week essentially. So
Yeah.
like kind of set up, which is kind of nice. Other times you don't. Are you able to? So like for example, for Can I Bring a Friend? Are you able to at least scope out the venue earlier?
Yeah, any venue that we have to work in will usually be there at least a couple weeks before. Just understanding everything related, like power is a big one. Understanding where the outlets are, how much power we have available to us. Mapping out all the different circuits that we're not actually blowing a fuse by putting like all the lights, all the sound onto the same circuit. Which can be a challenge when planning, especially like, can I bring a friend using these venues that aren't designed for all these AV components being installed at the same time? So like one of the best examples was when we did the Scotia Plaza at the top floor of their headquarters in Toronto. That one, there's not optimized at all,
Yeah,
where
I
we're
bet.
running everything.
Even the Bay Street one, the Underground Bay, I think when they did that, it's kind of like, oh, what do they have to work with?
Yeah,
Literally.
there's not a lot. So you're playing around with just how you can make it work in the safest way possible and just minimize risk.
Nice. Okay, so for this one, I know you guys had time to pre-event. So any emergencies you were able to kind of resolve. Did you guys have any emergencies leading up to the Stephen Bodson one? Like anything you had to fix? Or did things kind of go according to plan?
No, I think the biggest one with that one was the vendor for, so essentially the who we had for the audio at first. Once there was a joined, essentially the AV for the two shows were joined together. One of the promoters didn't want to work with that specific audio vendor, so then we had gotten one offering at an incredible price that we probably wouldn't, well, we weren't able to reproduce at the same cost, and then having to find a different sound system for that one. But then the other offering had come with all the curtains that were installed, which isn't something I'd say that's too common in McCormack from what I've seen,
No.
which helps to reduce all the echoes that come with going into this concrete warehouse. So that I'd say that was like the biggest last minute change.
Something happened that night with one of the synthesizers of Stefan Botzi, he's a technical writer. He was asking for some a mock keyboard or something, and the one that we got for him, it got wet. So something happened.
I can't remember exactly. It was a year ago. I know we had that. We did have to, I'm pretty sure, do like a full swap, like day of.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
That same day, like
At least you found out day of and not.
yeah, but it's a rare keyboard.
okay,
It's a
yeah.
rare piece of equipment. So it was such a situation.
So it's like analog gear that
Yeah.
not easy to find, where there might be like, especially with analog gear sometimes in Toronto, like that you have to be talking to the right people, because it's not something you can just easily rent out from anyone, because it's not like long.
But was it easy for you guys to replace this one?
There's definitely a lot of running around.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
day.
Like,
I
It
wouldn't say
was
like
our business partner who found him.
Okay, essentially you guys branched out to your network and it's
Yeah.
just like, hey, anyone able to help us on that? Okay, so you had that, and then when the show began, you guys were obviously probably in the production booth.
Yeah, we were at the back for the most part, and then our third partner was really the one that was running around a bit more, working tag teaming it with the stage manager that Asif had. But I'd say overall it went pretty smoothly once the show started on that one.
Yeah.
Pretty much, it went very well.
I was blown away by that. It's just
No,
because Living Legend and also just seeing like the visual production. I was like, wow, this is kind of amazing for McCormick.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the curtains. You're right. I've never seen anyone use curtains.
No, and that's something like I'm becoming big on as well because I'm a huge audiophile. Like Shambhala, I love it because the sound is high quality there. It's why I love a lot of festivals in the States. And then that's something I know once we go into like event planning and throwing our own events, they'll be big on our list to make sure that we maximize how good the space will sound. Through curtains, essentially, it's the easiest way to stop all those echoes.
Nice. And then you mentioned that the production was used the next day too. So then did you guys the teardown occur after the weekend?
Yeah. And then it varies. If we have the option, we are always going in on the day after.
Yeah.
Just because no one likes tearing down after an event.
Have you had to tear down right after an event? I'm assuming you had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many times. My least favorite time.
I think that's
job.
usually industry standard is you just have to tear it down right away.
Yeah. And in general, that's usually how it happens. Like we're fortunate sometimes where it can be done the next day, even if it's just like before noon. I'd still rather go home and get at least somewhat of a rest in and then come up.
That's your guys'
come back
AP.
refreshed. Yeah. But like the most notorious teardown, I think for us would be the Scotia Plaza one because you're bringing all to the
top. And
it's all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. The elevator only fits so much. And then
more vendors tearing down. It was such a situation
because we were just waiting there, I think, for hours before we could actually load all our stuff in because we had to be the last ones out. So yeah, it's just it can be a process once you have elevators involved.
Oh, 100%. That's probably it's just like moving in an apartment. Oh my god, same thing. So I guess, do you guys have any other stories of any other events you guys have done? We talked a lot about the library one. We talked a lot about some of the Can and Bring Your Friend, obviously stuff in Boston. Any other cool stories? You can keep it brief. Or setups you guys have done.
Well, I mean, every event has his own personality. Like a lot of stories. It's just I find the most valuable out of these events the people that you meet during the process, like all these connections, because at the end you end finding out that a lot of the people that you meet in this industry, they are there because they're really passionate for being in the music industry or the art industry. It's like a lot of people that do volunteer work, a lot of people that are there just because they love being there. And that's the best, at least as I understand things. Like for me, work has to be mandatory tie to whatever you love. So it's like it's something that it cannot be compromised. So that being said, is like when you meet all these people and you listen their stories, even if they're silly stories, big stories, all sorts of stories, but everybody just had something in common. And like they're there because they love being there. And this is
as I said, you don't get into this industry unless you have a passion for it. I think that's what it comes down to. So guys, just remember that. I know we're all ravers at heart, but just take a look at the extra that goes on into some of these events, and I think you'll have a greater appreciation for what people do.
Yeah, I know I do.
Yeah,
for sure.
One thing that's like less of a story, but it was like a realization for me because I'm coming from like the backline side, so I wasn't involved before this in like these large scale setups and like learned tons in the last year. Zip ties are quite literally your best friend, and I don't think anyone realizes how much we rely on zip ties and just how much is actually supported by a zip tie.
I would bet
there's tons of situations, even with like recently for the ritual, where we were going to clamp these pieces to the truss. There were some complications, so we weren't able to do that, and then end up just using zip ties to zip tie it, and it's crazy how sturdy they can be. And just something I find funny. Just behind the scenes, how much
it's like the duct tape analogy, right?
Yeah,
it's like in this case for this industry, it's all zip ties.
It's zip ties and gaffer tape for this industry.
100%. So I want to talk about this section because I appreciate what you guys are doing for the scene, because I think the basis of this is also what this topic is, and that is comparing production in Europe and in other areas of North America to what Toronto has. And I find we're always severely lacking. Once again, our home festival is Veld. The main stage is pretty big, but when you compare it to other festivals around the world, you're kind of like, it could be better.
Yeah.
Hearing is one of your most valuable senses, and nights at the club or festival puts it to the test. Repeated exposure to loud bass lines and crowd roars can cause irreversible damage, but it doesn't have to. Here's earplugs lower noise levels by up to 21 decibels, protecting your hearing while maintaining the sound quality you love. They're comfortable, effective, and designed for music lovers. You and your rave crew can save up to 30% with their group buy deal. Don't compromise. Click the link in the description now or scan the QR code on the screen. Don't wait till it's too late. Order today so you have it for your next event.
But I guess, why is this, from now that you guys have jumped in? Is it just cost, tariffs, or just lack of resources?
Cost. I say cost.
It's just cost?
Yeah. It's like it's
Logistics too, I guess. Cost factors
No,
into it.
logistics falls under the cost too.
Yeah. Like, I think cost is the ultimate reason why you don't see the same level of production as other places. Like the Canadian dollar, it fluctuating. Everything is priced out essentially in USD, especially artist fees. So let's say you have a certain budget for an event. The first thing that the promoters have to book is the artists themselves, which that price now fluctuates based on how well the Canadian dollar is doing, which just takes away from your budget as a whole if the dollar itself is doing badly.
Yeah.
So that already, if you look at like the US booking an artist in the same venue as a Canadian promoter, already you're working with a much smaller budget than if you were in the States, and same thing in Europe if they're working in euros.
How do you think a festival like, I'm gonna use Shambhala as a blueprint because world renowned, like, looks just as good as other ones, but I would say they're in a class of their own compared to every other festival in Canada. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
I guess for them, is it just they blow their budget on that, or like, I don't know how it would work for them.
Well, something that I have to mention too is the fact of the size of the crowd. You know, like festivals here used to be versus different places, United States, Europe, different countries. The crowd is very tiny, if you know, see it like that. That also it's like everything falls on the same, like a cost, right? Like less people means that whoever's coming has to pay more in order to get the at least the cost of production for the producer. And festivals like Shambhala, like Bell, that they have been there for a while. They have been growing their audience, and now they're count for thousands, right? Now they don't break even. Now they're start getting profit. So I think history start shifting, and that's
like each year's gonna get better
Yeah.
and better.
Yeah.
I know that's definitely the case for Veld, because I think we know it's now a big economy driver for the city, and also for Inc. Entertainment. Like, it kind of sets up their budget for like the next year just based on the profit.
And Shambhala is the same thing, I would say, where I wouldn't even say necessarily that they're keeping up with the increasing costs, because we've seen them, especially as of recently, they're growing how many people can attend the festival by expanding into the forest more. And I mean, I've noticed that there's just like camps are getting smaller, which there's been complaints from attendees as well on that one. But it's a necessity to keep up with all of these increasing production costs. They are able to also just put forward as much as they do, going back to projection mapping. Like, they're not using massive LED walls in a lot of these stages. It's a small contained LED wall, and then once it's nighttime, and because they operate over the course of the entire night, all they need is one projector that's strong enough to actually project all the visuals, as opposed to, and we're talking one projector versus this massive video wall.
It makes sense, and
you're cutting by like a tenth of the cost, probably, if not more. So there's different elements that they're doing. Like, the village stage is probably a completely different scenario, but it's also that the infrastructure is already in place. There is another big one. So it's not like they're having to bring in all the labor to do all the trussing and everything. Like they have these structures that just live there year round because it's just made out of wood. They take all the electronic components out for the winter time, and then they just have to reinstall those. But having like existing infrastructure there is pretty key to being able to stand everything up. And then sponsorships is the next biggest funding bucket, I would say, where I'm pretty sure they are sponsored by PK. So that means they wouldn't be paying for at least not the same amount for all the sound system and everything. Because if I were to look at like Coachella is another great example of it's essentially fully funded by sponsors as far as I'm aware. Where they wouldn't be able to put on that level of like production and all these artists without having all these massive.
Like Amex was spending like 5 to 10 million on that, like just as a sponsor.
Yeah,
right? It makes sense. It all comes down. All comes down to cost and budgeting.
Yeah,
sponsors you can get.
Cost and budgeting. But then going into, I guess, why does Toronto get shafted for production? Let's say, I think it's like Carlos was saying, like the crowds that we pull aren't the same as. I'll use Europe as an example. Europe can easily sell out these 10,000 person venues consistently without the promoter having to bat an eye about, am I going to make money on this show? Versus Toronto, it can be very hit or miss based off of what headliner you're bringing,
what genre,
yeah. So when you don't actually know what budget you have to work with, it's hard to just say, let's put more money into the production side. Also just forecasting for like all the different shows. Like I think there's a lot of different factors, all comes down to cost. But I'd say Toronto's a market where it's very hard to predict in these smaller shows that like, I guess shows that would fit into McCormack. Like if you bring John Summit, you know you're doing well. But for these people like Takeover 6, Puzzles, if you can't guarantee they're going to sell at the show, it makes it a bit harder to plan, I would say.
Yeah, they rely on the ticket sales initially too to kind of
keep
budget.
funding it. Yeah.
That makes sense. Would you say, so from your experience, would you say that we're just gonna say USA versus Europe? Who do you right now think is like more insane when it comes to production?
I'd say Europe 100%, but
Yeah, Europe. I mean, based on creative outcome, budget. We all know the answer.
Yeah.
Sure. But also United States, they always do great.
Yeah, they like obviously Ultra,
Yeah.
obviously like EDC for example, right? Like it always looks insane.
I mean, even look at Sphere.
Well, the
Yeah,
Sphere has its own
yeah,
stuff,
like-
right?
yeah.
Like the technology is there,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. I think it comes down to the other point you mentioned is that in Europe they don't gotta worry about it because they know if you host in like Amsterdam, you're gonna get people from Germany. It's a train ride away. I guess it's easier for people to just take a train and go there. A good example was we went to Verknip Arena last year, and they set the world record for the amount of lasers in the
yeah.
show. And I remember walking into the venue, and I was just like my jaw dropped just looking at the speaker stacks and looking at everything that was done. And they took over their entire football field, and like tickets were like almost. Remember, they were dropping closer to the event too.
Yeah.
So it's like
They're like 78 euros or something like that.
yeah, it like dropped closer to the event, so people were selling their tickets, and I'm just like, is this like the hard techno bubble burst in Europe? But like they spent like I remember I sent a picture to the former episode we did with Kian. We sent a picture of the production, like the booth. He's like, dude, that's like $10 million right there of equipment.
Yeah.
just for that show.
It's insane how much Europe can put into their production. Like I look at the Clang Out World shows also,
Yeah.
where like their
Yeah.
most
The
recent
Madrid one is
yeah,
just
the
like-
Madrid looked insane. And like even honestly in South America right now, I find is killing it with their production. Like
Yeah.
just the show out, especially as the 240 kmh sound has like been on the
also,
upfront.
which
yeah.
is kind of weird because you think Australia is just Canada, but everything can kill you. But like the production down there is just insane, and you're just like, how? If especially with that.
That's some very good question and very good point. The Australian and New Zealand scene, they have been thriving out of the underground scene. Totally came out of underground scene. And I need to make the mention because I follow that scene closely. It comes out of the psytrance music. Yeah, it's
that
like
makes sense.
yeah, they have been growing these. There's few labels come out of those two specific places in New Zealand and Australia that they have been thriving all over the world, and they have been gaining recognition And out of those same groups of people, there are visual artists, and they have been investing for sure. But also the fact, like at least I've been analyzing that situation, and I find that the weather conditions out there allow producers to throw outdoor events all year, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you can host all these massive productions out of tiny cost, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
since everything comes out of uh, underground scene. And I need to make that mention. I have conversations with a few of the well, that few people from there, and that's all always that they say. And it's like everything starts as we have been pointing out during this episode. Like back then, prior to I had this conversation with a mayor, a visual artist in New Zealand, and he pointed out that before prior pandemic, the cost of living, the cost of everything in town was crazy, and somehow they managed to bring cost of living down. That's another story. But the scene itself, it got compromised for the fact that everything, venues, permits, they got a super high cost, and they start breaking into new scenes, new venues, underground venues, no permits, no this, no that. And from there, after pandemic, few years ago, there start coming new all these new places with these massive installations, with the massive performance that technically comes, exactly as I mentioned at the beginning, out of the underground scene slash the necessity of artists to showcase all these people that have been doing really well.
Mhm.
Um,
That's an interesting perspective. The underground scene kind of
Yeah.
elevating that,
has been
which is what I'd like to see from Sojourn, like our local. Shout out to those guys because you always see some cool art installations in there too.
Yeah,
that
and
they were
even
doing.
Takeover 6 has been doing more, I find, with like
Yeah.
Yeah,
art
they are.
installations and what we're trying to push on
has
our
been always the
clients.
case. If you look back in history, it's like always the we're using now the concept of underground scene, but it's like the non-conventional art, the one that is always thriving or breaking paradigms. Yeah. And however, the beginning is it's hard to understand. Yeah, because when you talk about a scene, any scene, for sure, everybody want to be in the hype, right? Everybody want to be in the most exclusive scene. Till that scene get just too common, because now everybody there, and has been the case all the
Mhm.
time. So certainly, I pointed out a few comments earlier. Um, Sometimes for massive brands, global brands, you see all these art installations, and right now I'm pointing out to visual installations, because I know a little bit more about that scene. And you see all these massive productions and all these massive things for mainstream brands, and at the end you ended rely maybe a lot of people doesn't know that out of those installations, the people behind the producers, the art directors of all those um production, coming out of throwing the most experimental installations, the most uncommon things, and that's how things get renewed or refreshed after some scene or some concept of art just falls after you just get bored. Is like it's people looks for new things, right?
Yeah.
The weird things, the I don't know how you want to call it, but yeah, certainly it happened too often, has been happening during the years, during history. If I have the feeling won't gonna stop happening because
It's all innovation, right?
Yeah.
That's how you push the scene forward, which is
Yeah.
which is
The
key.
one thing I learned from that story is just that Toronto needs to drop a lot of red tapes so that we can just do all these things all year long, you know?
Cost saving, more zip ties and more red tape.
Yeah.
So I guess the summary of that section
Yes.
is
More zip ties, less red tapes.
it's hard for Toronto. It's hard for Toronto promoters to have the confidence that something is going to be profitable if they put too much investment into production.
Yeah.
So it's a fine balance, guys. I think we're doing a great job right now for what we're work with. Obviously, we're lacking. I guess the second point is just go to Europe.
Yeah.
Go
I
to
mean,
Europe
yeah, you
and
can do that
experience
too,
a
yeah.
festival as well. It's crazy.
Sometimes the money that you spend in a festival, local festival, is the same amount that you spend in
That's the logic we're using
Yeah.
right now
Yeah.
for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just to round out the episode, as I said, like now you guys are in full thick of it. Was there a turning point where you guys are like, "This, I love doing this. Like I'm glad I did this."
I feel like from this, like pretty close to the start, that we've been glad that we've moved forward with it. It's like, don't get me wrong, there's been tons of stressful situations and like
Yeah.
ups and downs. But I find, especially as of recently, where now we're working with some festival brands, we're working with just we have some returning clients now, people that let us express ourselves creatively as well. Really helps to motivate us and like keep us moving forward in the right direction.
Exactly as Aiden say, and also the fact that I feel a huge team like backing up the operation. But it's not only the operation as enterprise, but we
There's
mentioned
a
at the
lot of
beginning.
friendship
Yeah, a lot of
also, which is
friendships.
something that we're pretty big on with anyone that we bring on board. We're just making sure that they actually mesh well into the culture.
It's all
There's that
working
passion
together, right?
there,
We
Yeah.
all have to work together.
Yeah.
especially like as a startup, like you're not working like a 40-hour standard
Yeah.
week. Like there's tons and tons and tons of
Late night
hours,
calls,
and then
yeah. all
late
that
night
stuff.
calls, and like as he said to me before, like when you're most creative typically ends up being like late at night. It's always
Yeah.
past 11 p.m. Where there's a lot of creative stuff that happens, so there's lots of late nights at the warehouse.
Yeah.
I guess for you guys, what's the next big milestone you guys are trying to hit?
We have some festivals in the horizon. There's also this collab that we are doing with Lysergic Sounds.
Search
Yeah,
sounds
there's
for
this massive festival happening in town. Um, and there is this massive visual artists that are coming. So we have this collab, as I already say. It's a long scope that I could be like discussing for hours if you want.
That maybe another time.
Yeah. No, but if people want to find out more, it's like a modern festival. Lysergic, there's coming the process and more artists. Like there is a huge showcase of talent for this band, and we full experience. We've been working closely with Lysergic Sounds team, and it's I mean, it's not like I want to talk about them, but it's like as we mentioned, like they break a little bit the conventional, and certainly the proposal that they offered to the city came out of something that wasn't happening, and the rest is story, right? So
Mhm.
it's
Awesome.
something nice to mention.
Nice.
And there's more festivals going on, but that's
yeah, that's definitely like the short-term milestone.
Yeah.
I think for us, like a big milestone for us will also be throwing our own festival that lets us have full creative freedom and kind of create these next level immersive stages is going to be the goal for that one. So excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. That's another big milestone that we want to achieve, and it's it's like a build all these ideas, bring to reality all these things that we've been going through, the- like conceptualizing, and we definitely want to make it happen. We know that there's um audience there's a public that want to uh, they value these innovations, and I don't know. We need to make it happen.
You gonna achieve this with more zip ties or less zip ties?
Oh no, definitely there's gonna be
Record
a lot
levels of zip
Yeah,
ties.
there's gonna be a lot of zip ties involved.
All right. Any shout outs or show that you want to drop?
I mean, we're full on EXP or full on experience. Lysergic Sounds is a very close collaborator of us. Delta Process, great visual artists. Just if you're looking to understand projection mapping and video mapping a lot more, they're massive in the scene, doing some really cool stuff. Carlos is High Babylon if you want to see any of his visuals that he's done. And
I have to pause. I'm gonna piss my pants. Like legit, I'm about to piss my pants. Oh shit! I was like trying to hold it as long as possible.
Oh,
Like, oh shit!
Yeah. No, but I always say, I've been mentioned this word too many times, but the underground scene, man, the people that does the throw events for the sake
Mm-hmm.
of throwing events, people seriously have been throwing events for years without any financial retribution. Like they have been investing money, and they don't get any money back, but they cannot stop.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's pretty much how the evolution is, right? You start off with like underground, under the bridge, even beachside and whatnot, until the city allows you to do it in venues, and then you just grow from there, right? So if you drop more red tapes, you eventually will have
Yeah.
you will eventually have more freedom of choice that you can.
And this is what supposed to happen because as we say, the city regulations right now push to all the producers to very square
Mhm.
very square position or field of operativity.
Yeah.
That the certainly is not it's not as innovative as everybody would like. So the underground scene is always pushing boundaries, like
Yeah,
a
for
step
sure.
in the that tiny line of legal or illegal.
Yeah.
So, but making it happen, and
Yeah.
eventually, when you get something proper, a product of quality that is uncompromised for permits and not permits,
Yeah.
there is when things
Yeah,
start
for sure, for
happening.
sure.
There is when you actually start making change, and have been happening all over the place, all over the world. Has a history of too many cities, too many scenes. It's just
I mean,
the
if the policy and the lifting of the red tapes make money for the politicians, by all means, do it.
man. It's like
All right.
it's just,
Okay, to wrap it up, just ask the question, any shout outs, and then you're gonna have to repeat it again.
okay.
And then we gotta wrap it up because he's gotta go.
Yeah, I do have to.
Yes, go.
Yeah. So any shout outs that you want to do, and drop your socials too while you're at it.
Yep. So we're full on experience. Carlos, his visual brand is High Babylon, and then some other good brands like you mentioned, Lysergic Sounds, who's doing some cool stuff with video mapping that we help them to build and operate, as well as Delta Process IT on Instagram. If you look them up and want to learn more about video mapping, they're a great visual artist who we love working with.
Nice, awesome. As I said, it's been a pleasure having you guys on. Hope you guys learned a lot. As I said, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, so as I said, you'll see them at a couple local shows, maybe a couple festivals upcoming. So
Mhm.
it'd be cool to see, and hopefully you guys have a better appreciation for all the work that goes on from our lighting, sound, production, stage visuals, everything. As I said, they're the unsung heroes of the night.
And thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming,
Yep.
guys. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode, guys. If you enjoyed it and want to support us, please share it with a fellow raver, like and subscribe. Got a little picture going on. If you haven't noticed, we launched our new website. It has all the episodes on there, also a little bio about us, and also what events we're going to and what you can see us at. As I said, always come up. We're always happy for a friendly chat. Say hi, hello.
Say hi to
also
him.
rage with us if you see us there.
Yep.
As I said, we're trying to hit 1K followers on
Subscribers on
YouTube. So please share it with a fellow friend and hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Just a quick shout out to some of our affiliates. If you have a night of heavy drinking and need obviously Many of us probably do in this scene.
Mhm.
Get a jelly IV. It'll help up to 5 drinks as you're drinking them. Just helps your liver in recovery in the morning. Also, if you're traveling, summer season's almost here. We have an affiliate with Airalo. Use our code BNBHurts15 for 15 was it
Percent off.
15% off of your purchase. $10 minimum, but obviously if you're in Europe, you probably need more, especially if you're posting videos. Really good. And also if you need earplugs, as I said, with all this stuff, you got to protect your ears while you're even working on it and at the event. So we have an affiliate with Hears. The description is in the bio. If you group package it, you get a pretty good discount. All the details can be found in the description below.
And you can buy it through us too.
Yes, and we are selling it also at local events. So find us and also reach us on DM if you want one.
All right.
And with that, we'll see you guys on the next one.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.